Next up, we have a special guest here to RHD support to talk about RHD supportive short-term housing facility. So we have Owen Camuso, Christina Jordan,
and Mark Jonas.
So welcome.
Good evening. I'm Mark Jonas. I'm counsel for RHD, Resources for Human Development. That's a name I think that we should keep in mind as we talk about tonight the request that we have that you authorize a text amendment to the Township zoning ordinance to accommodate supportive housing. And this is, in fact, a very limited use of supportive housing, and our presentation will discuss what that is tonight. We hear about commercial uses, residential uses, but this is a very human use, and as we look at double digits and lower temperature, this proposed use could not be more important to this community as well as to other communities. In land use, we talk about legitimate land uses. Supportive housing is, in fact, a legitimate land use that every township and borough and city must provide for. It is an important land use because of the human element, the human nature, the need for housing, the need to help people move forward in life, and that's what RHD does. The text amendment that we've seen in draft form appropriately locates a supportive housing use in an institutional zone. In our case, we propose to locate within the confines of Eagleville Hospital, which is zoned institutional. This is a very intense ordinance with a lot of standards, including screening, eligibility. It reflects township concerns, and it also, very importantly, resolves potential issues and ambiguities in the township zoning ordinance. So it's an important step forward for the community and for RHD. Owen Camuso will begin the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors and also the Lower Providence Township Administration for having us tonight and allowing the opportunity. Also the community for coming out to listen to what we define supportive short-term housing. By way of introduction, I'm Owen Camuso. I'm our Regional Director for Resources for Human Development, focused here in Montgomery County. By way of background, I have 15 years of human service experience in a variety of areas, providing direct care service, majority of my recent program oversight as well. And I'm going to let Christina Jordan introduce herself, and then I'll tell you a little bit about RHD and supportive short-term housing.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Jordan. I am the program director of Jenny's Place. I am a licensed social worker with nearing 15 years of experience in human services and working directly with individuals who are unhoused.
So I think it's important for us to start of who RHD is. So Resources for Human Development is a nonprofit organization. It's a national human service nonprofit organization. We do have a large footprint here in Montgomery County. So my office is located in Montgomery County, and my region is Montgomery County. I think it's important to note that RHD started right here in Montgomery County over 50 years ago, and we still provide that service today in Bryn Mawr. It's our Lower Marion Counseling Services, still providing services today. So the easiest way to explain RHD is we're a national human service organization. We have 3 separate service lines. So we have intellectual developmental disabilities, we have our healthcare division, and then we have our behavioral health and housing division. What we're focused on today is that housing piece of Resources for Human Development. But I think the overarching picture is very important to understand of the services that we do provide. You can switch over. So here to talk about housing, like I said. So supportive short-term housing, I want people to have kind of a visual of what that looks like. So first of all, who would be utilizing short-term housing? So our program is focused on individuals who are 18 and older, so adults who are in the need of permanent housing and in an immediate situation. So that's the population that we're focused on. Christina will probably explain a little bit more later on in the presentation, but I want to give the overarching. So I think the easier part to explain is that housing piece. We all recognize what housing is. We all have homes to be able to live in. So what we visualize is housing is a structure with people with individual rooms that are coming into our program. At most, we would have 2 people in a room, and kind of the goal is for them to make that home theirs, focused on the short-term aspect of things. So it's not a forever home. We are trying to get people linked to permanent housing. Residents take ownership of their own space. There will be some shared spaces. So the shared spaces could include kitchen, bathroom, laundry facilities, and a living space for people to utilize. So I want to be clear that our plans aren't fully laid out yet. They're still being altered, but that is our vision now. We also would have a spot for what I would consider educational and technology, and I'm sure Christina would expand on that some more. But for a high-level thing, think anything that somebody needed that was staying in those individual rooms to move forward in where they're going next. And then we would also have staffing space. So that's kind of the visual. I know it's really hard, so we tried to mock up something that a living space might look like for somebody. So if you see that on the PowerPoint screen there. And then, so we have the housing piece, and now the supportive piece, which what I consider the service component. So know that this is not just housing. This is goal-driven services. So people have to engage in a service component here. It's not somebody can just come here and stay and do whatever they want. There are program rules and regulations that people have to comply with and also engage in and be motivated to take full efforts of our program. It's time limited, that short-term piece. It will be time limited with goals to move people into independent housing. A lot of times we get the question, well, what happens after that time period? So we set target dates of 60 to 90 days of people staying within our facility. What happens when we come up on that 90 days and somebody might not have a housing resource to be able to use? We put more intensive support and bring in more resources from the community to be able to focus on that individual to move them forward. There is a 24-hour staffing component, so we have staff 24/7 plus an intensive on-call support line as well. You can go to the next slide, Paul. This is just another visual of where we have a vision of making people's space kind of their own, so people can take ownership of that. We feel that treats people with dignity and respect, and then think of it as it's their own space with quick access to intensive services to move people forward. You can go to the next slide, Paul. So I think it's important for everybody to understand how people get to us. There's a multi-stage approach of screening people before they get into the program. So what we're trying to get at here is A, making sure that people are the right fit for our program, and B, making sure that people understand what our program is, because I keep mentioning that motivation piece. People need to have motivation to really engage in our services and to move forward. So the first step is an outreach team and an outreach screening process. So it's county focus, so all people that will be coming here are from the county. And there's outreach teams that are engaging individuals and learning about people that know the homeless resources that are in the community. So if they're understanding who that person is who needs that immediate housing need that's standing in front of them, and they know what our program do, they can engage in that dialogue of, will this be the appropriate fit for the service program that RHD is providing? If somebody is an appropriate fit, it goes to the next step. That next step is where we kind of come in. So we do an administrative review. So what does an administrative review consist of? So we get a name from that outreach team. We would look in databases to see past history, variety of databases. Please note that all of this is with the individual's permission. If the individual isn't giving permission for us to do this, that doesn't seem like they want to engage in our services, so we would need that permission ahead of time. So we would do that background check of databases and resources that we have access to. We would also do a criminal background review, and then if stuff did come up, we would talk with our provider network that we partner with within Montgomery County to really know if they understand the person too, or if they had a history, because we're screening people again at this stage. So get past that stage and go to the next stage. Well, this is our first contact with the individual. So we would do a phone screening for somebody. So we would call that individual on the phone. If they don't have access to a phone, that outreach team might come back in and be like, hey, how about talk to RHD, let me connect you guys. They need to do a phone screening. The main purpose of this phone screening is, again, to reiterate those rules and regulations that we have, and also to get that mutual understanding of this is program-based services that are goal-driven to move forward in your housing. Phone screening piece, then we go on to a face-to-face intake process. So the face-to-face intake process is really looking at getting to know that individual with that first face-to-face interaction. So this likely happens on site, and we would do an intake process. Again, reinforcing what our program is, rules and regulations, and this is where we would get signatures for that mutual understanding. At any point in that process, if somebody does not want to continue in what our mission or focus is, we would move on to somebody else within the program. So now that somebody is inside our supportive short-term facility, they would be admitted into our program. So we would assign them a room, their own space that they have, and then our service component would take over. So I think Christina is probably best to explain the service component, and no one wants to hear me talk all night, so I will pass it over to her, and then we'll wrap it up, and we're here to answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, so as Owen mentioned, in order to provide these services, staffing, we have 24/7 staffing, we have a robust on-call system. Our staff are highly trained with different specializations and backgrounds. I'm the leader of the entire staff, and I take personal responsibility in that. I oversee all staffing, all hiring, and all management of the on-staff employees. Each employee has an intensive onboarding and training process, but beyond that, training and supervision are integral throughout their entire employment stay. And again, I personally am overseeing these processes and making sure everyone is receiving supervision and support. So then what do the services look like that individuals receive when they're with us? At the most basic, yes, we provide meals, laundry, a safe space to stay, but we provide so much more than that. Everyone has an individualized goal plan with us, a housing stability plan, where we work on tailoring a goal plan, a plan to move forward into permanent housing that's tailored to their unique needs. And again, as Owen mentioned, everyone comes in understanding that they are here to work on their goals, and they're motivated to work on moving forward. We also work with people on creating a budget plan, and then connecting them to the appropriate housing resources, which again depend on what that person is eligible for and a variety of different factors. From there, we look at even more tailored and individual unique differences and needs depending on what's going on with the person. A common thing is that we connect people to healthcare resources, make sure people have connections and referrals to doctors or meeting their other healthcare needs. We have telehealth resources available on site as well, so if that is a suitable option to start getting some of those needs taken care of, we're able to support people in having telehealth appointments. And we would also connect people to behavioral health care needs as well, if that's something they were in need of or interested in. We connect a lot of folks to benefits that they're eligible for and make sure that they're getting their identification documents and have all of those in place, which can be a bit of a process sometimes and is helpful to have someone to guide you on that way. We connect people to community resources and supports. Again, depending on what they're interested in, they might want to get connected to a church. They might want to get connected to a senior center. They might want to get connected to employment, and we would work with individuals on connection to those appropriate things. So, really how residents spend their day is doing all of these things. People are busy taking care of their goals in order to get into housing. Some of these things are quite intensive processes, and as part of the program, you have to be working and moving towards your goals. So that's something we're evaluating and looking at, what progress are you making in order to move forward on your goals. People are, going to these appointments, they're going to telehealth appointments, they're meeting with their case manager, they're spending time searching for housing, getting their IDs, getting their materials that they need for housing. Some people do have employment and are, spending time at employment. Some people are spending time searching for employment. Some people might be volunteering around Jenny's Place and around the program, committing to helping the community in different ways and different things that we have going on. We do have computers available on site as well as a place for folks to do all of those things again, search for housing, search for employment and things like that, so they can do that both with a staff person or independently on the computers as well. And usually it's a mix of both. Okay, so you can go to the next slide, Paul. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the stories and folks that we have worked with. Everyone's story is obviously different, but I just want to give a little bit of a flavor of some of the folks that we may come across. So the first story I want to share is a 75-year-old man who came to us after having to sleep outside on a porch. He had multiple health issues, including issues with his heart, lungs, and kidneys. Unfortunately, he had been recently financially taken advantage of by a family member for tens of thousands of dollars. When he came in with us, he had been connected to a home health agency, but they weren't providing him the adequate support that he needed, and we found out that he was really behind on a lot of medical appointments that were urgently needed. So we spent a lot of time connecting him and getting him back up to date on those medical appointments. We connected him to a new home health agency that was able to provide him with more adequate support. And we assisted him in connecting to some resources to start to rectify that financial situation. We were able to get him into senior housing and then have a case manager to follow him to continue work on these things, because some of them were much longer processes, and having someone watch out and help him manage these situations. The next individual is a different story. It was a 19-year-old woman who was employed full-time. She came to us because she was leaving an abusive household. She actually came in for less than a month. She just needed a safe space to get her affairs in order, get connected to benefits, a place to, process paperwork and things like that, and she left us to go to college and moved into student housing. And the last story I want to share is a little bit of a different flavor. We had a 77-year-old woman who was unfortunately incapacitated as a result of natural aging processes. And we worked with Adult Protective Services to provide a safe place for this woman to be while they went through the processes that they needed to go through in order to get her situated and in having safe protective things in place, and then for her to move into a nursing home. So again, it can look really different. We see all sorts of different people, but all people have the same basic needs and the same basic needs as all of us. Okay. Community is really important to Jenny's Place and to me personally. Part of what we do at Jenny's Place is give back to our neighbors, support local businesses, and become a part of the fabric of the community. We're actually already connected to several churches in Lower Providence Township, And we're really looking forward to building on these connections and supporting local organizations. I'm hopeful that we can build partnerships with all sorts of different organizations in Lower Providence Township. Perhaps the library, perhaps someone's local volunteer group. Perhaps that we have individuals who would be interested in being employees at your business. And perhaps we will be purchasing items to run our business from your business. As an active program in the community, we're always engaging with other organizations, community groups, and faith-based organizations. We work directly with both organizations and individuals if they have comments and if they have concerns or other ways to work together. Again, I personally am on site to manage these and be available for partnerships or concerns or other connections. I have been a Montgomery County resident for the majority of my life, and I have seen what our community is capable of. And I've also seen times where we've maybe not provided adequate support to our neighbors. The community support and connections that we can give our neighbors is what drives me in this work, and I really look forward to being able to do that in community with all of you.
Thank you. So I think Christina definitely summed it up with the stories that she had in her own personal touch. So I'm sure that the board and others have questions for us. So Christina and I are happy to answer any of those right now.
Thank you for that comprehensive presentation. I'm glad the community is here to hear this. You know, I know this has been a multiple year process, and we're still working through it. So we're going to take questions and comments from the board, and then we're going to open the floor to the public because we definitely want to hear from the township members as well. I just wanted to clarify two things before I pass it on to Supervisor McFarland. One, I know this is, you have stated this is a supportive short-term housing. Is this a homeless shelter?
It is not a homeless shelter. We would not look at it as a homeless shelter. We are helping people who are unhoused, but it is not a homeless shelter.
And what's the difference?
Sure. So we run homeless shelters with RHD. So I think that we're looking at this more as housing with the supports around this. Our homeless shelters you would walk into and they would look totally different. I think from a couple different aspects. One being knowing the individuals better that come into our facility and doing those background screenings and those intensive services. And two being the physical layout of a homeless shelter is usually what I consider a barrack style homeless shelter, where you would walk in and there would be a bunch of cots and everybody would really live in a communal living space. And I would say that stays might be every one, like a couple days, and then somebody would leave and then come back. This is more of shorter term, longer term placement, if that makes sense. I know that's hard to concept, but it's not an overnight one night stay and then I'm out and I'm coming back the next day. These people stay for at least 60 to 90 days.
Okay. And then the other question is, of course, you know, you're potentially going to be here in Lower Providence Township. We've had several occasions where some township members have not had a place to live. You know, whether their house was condemned during the flood, or you know, we just had an issue a few weeks ago where there was a family that could no longer live in a house, and you know, they had to be moved elsewhere. So will this facility have give us some beds, or I guess the efficiency apartments for our community members here?
Yes, that's what we're here for. We're here to provide that service, and we're here to partner with Lower Providence on that. So absolutely, we would do that.
Thank you. Supervisor McFarland?
Thank you. I just wondered, before I start with my own questions, whether putting this process in context for the public might be helpful so that they can put these comments in the right context.
Happy to. So what is in front of the board tonight, obviously we heard the presentation from the applicant. On tonight's agenda is a consideration of authorized to advertise public hearing for text amendment. If the board authorizes advertisement, this matter, the application will be sent to both the Lower Providence Township Planning Commission and the Montgomery County Planning Commission. The Lower Providence Planning Commission will hold a public meeting where members of the public can come out and voice their concerns and discuss the matter with the Planning Commission. The Montgomery County Planning Commission will review it and issue comments. After that process is complete, the ordinance will be advertised for consideration at a future public meeting where, again, it will be advertised and the members of the public will be able to come out and speak about the ordinance, their concerns, and their comments. So there will be a further public hearing in front of this board if it is authorized for advertising.
And we can go through the process again. You know, right now, we definitely want to hear from the board and the public, you know, with their questions and concerns.
So, pardon my voice, but this is an introduction to what RHD would like to do in the township, and the process is just starting. So I just want to make sure everyone understands there's no vote on whether this is going to happen or not tonight or any time in the next few weeks. It's going to be several months, and there'll be one or more additional public hearings on the topic. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that as you come forward with your questions and comments. To come back to your presentation, which thank you for that, you mentioned, Owen, early on that this would be 18-year-old and plus people, and it's males only. Did I hear that correctly?
Males and females.
Males and females,
Yep.
okay.
Sorry, I did not clarify that.
And is it fair for me to say from your presentation, in my own words, that people who are accepted into this residence are only ones who are willing and capable of reaching a financial stabilization that allows them to live independently? Is that what you expect them to go through in the plan?
Yes, sir. Yes, everybody needs to buy into that, and it has to be feasible as well.
So if an individual that you encounter at the outset had some type of serious mental, alcohol, or drug-related issues, that would not qualify them for this process?
Yes, we would refer to the appropriate services through our assessment process and make sure that the community is safe and the individual is safe.
Okay, and just in order of my notes here, just to repeat, you are not going to be a code blue facility to get people out of the elements on an emergency basis?
No, sir. Our program will be 24 or 365 days, the same exact program. We would not increase during code blue times, and code blue is much different. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what is the track record of success historically with this process that you're undertaking, wish to undertake here?
Yeah, I think that this is a new vision of services, but Christina gave some success stories. We have many of other success stories that we can talk about. So I don't have the exact number, and I don't want to give you a figure. I can get back to you on some statistics because we track those very, very closely. But I would say, do you have an idea? Maybe you might have an idea.
I mean, you undertake the program and accept a resident with a full expectation of success. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that, and there are reasons for you to believe that based on what you've learned about the potential resident, right? Yeah. They don't all make it, but
right.
That's your expectation.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
And success for one person might be entering a nursing home.
Please utilize the microphone.
Success for one person may be entering a nursing home or type facility or something along those lines, while success for a different person would be, you know, they're working full-time, paying for their apartment and you know, or whatever, you know, in independent apartment.
Right, so essentially you might be on Social Security and have that kind of funds available, and you're able to help them connect with a place that they could live using that funding. Or go to a nursing home under another program.
Yep, it's pretty individualized, but success looks moving on to that next step and being successful in that next step.
And this may be unfair as well, but I just got to ask, in this demographic, what percent, how many people are over 60 or under 60, or how does that work?
So we've definitely been seeing the population aging. More than half of the individuals we expect to serve would be 55 and above, with probably about a quarter 65 and above. So definitely steering, towards older adults, and as I would expect that trend to even increase as, like, in correlation with some trends in our society.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned, Christina, particularly, you have your residents have signed up and are undertaking a program. There are different programs for different plans, but they all have goals that they're trying to reach.
Yes, absolutely.
Telehealth or counseling or financial help or some other thing. But they're all going to have some free time virtually every day. So what's your thoughts on what are they going to do then?
Well, I hope for all of us, we each have a little bit of free time every day in our lives. But, again, we do have some things that happen on site, and different opportunities available on site for community. It's not uncommon that we may have a church come in and we share a community meal or something like that with a church, and then maybe we have activities or do some sort of game or event or activity with that church or that volunteer group or whatever it is. So there are a number of things that happen on site. But again, just like you and I, like, if I have downtime, I like to read books, and maybe if you have downtime, you like to go on Facebook and try to connect with some social contacts or things like that, or different things. So it just depends for everyone.
When people have some free time, they can only walk primarily. Most of them won't have cars. So they're going to walk to the Turkey Hill or Eagleville Tavern or maybe even the library, which is fine if there's normal behavior and normal activities. But if there's a problem related to one of these residents, what would you suggest would be the next step for that business owner?
Yeah, folks are absolutely welcome to call us and connect with us, and we can even build relationships before anything happens so that there is a connection. And if there was some sort of situation, we'd be more than happy to, come over to help resolve it if that was helpful in that situation, or whatever it would take to make that individual, that business feel comfortable in order to resolve that. And certainly would be giving folks with us expectations around, things like that would not be acceptable for us, for folks to, be going to a nearby business and causing a disturbance, and we would absolutely address that and set expectations properly there.
Okay, thank you. Because without any effort or response from you people, it turns over to the police department, and that becomes a cost to us. And
Yep, and Supervisor McFarland, I think that we would also monitor that as well to make sure that we had a pulse on that, so people wouldn't have to call us. We would take care of it right away if we saw that, because like we said, we don't permit that either if people are just hanging out at Turkey Hill. If they're going to Turkey Hill to get something, absolutely, that's okay. But if they're sitting out front loitering and stuff like that, we would try to put some processes in place to monitor that and address that as it comes up.
thank you. Transportation, how would the residents leave and return to the facility while they're in the program?
So there is a bus stop nearby, and some folks might have a senior reduced fare card or things like that. They might have their own income that they're paying for buses. We also would provide some bus passes for people to get to certain appointments or connections and different things like that if that was a resource that they needed. Many folks are connected with Transnet as well, so that they have support for medical type appointments, and that service provides rides to them, comes and provides rides to get to those medical appointments. Occasionally, we do also have company vehicles that we might drive someone to somewhere, like an apartment viewing or something like that, important so that they could get there. And again, like if someone has employment or something like that, we might help them, you know, with bus passes until they get their first paycheck, and then they've got their paycheck and they're able to, you know, purchase the key card and put money on that to utilize the bus.
So for occasional use, not an emergency of health nature, but it wouldn't just be the bus stop. There may be occasions where you could help these people
Yes,
reach the...
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there was something that came up, you know, we could utilize that, or occasionally we even utilize rideshare as well if needed, but we could, you know, again, going back to concerns around if there was an issue, if we needed to drive to where that is, we could do that and bring the person back with us or something like that, although we don't anticipate that being a problem.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Thank you. Great questions. Supervisor Charles.
Great, thank you so much for the presentation. I just have a few quick questions. Number one, how does this benefit the residents of Lower Providence, not Montgomery County, but our small community here?
Yeah, I think Christina talked about that a little bit. We want to be part of the community. We don't want to be detriment to the community for sure. So we want to be embedded in this community, and we want to be supportive of everybody here in Lower Providence. So employment opportunities we have, not just at this program, but we also have employment opportunities through RHD broadly. Also supporting local businesses in this. I mean, we do a lot of meal services. We have repairs that need to be done and things like that. So shopping local in Lower Providence. And also, I mean, Supervisor Darby mentioned about people in need of our services in Lower Providence. We would be here to be that safety net to help support people in need.
Great, yeah, I'd love to see, if this were to go through, a certain amount of beds reserved, because I imagine, I don't know what is typical, but you would fill up real quickly because the need is immense, countywide and statewide, so.
And I want to be clear, Supervisor Charles, we are completely supportive of that.
Great. Next question, since I'm new, was there a countywide or statewide assessment? How did we land on Lower Providence instead of, say, Conshohocken and Plymouth Meeting, King of Prussia, Pottstown, anywhere else?
Yeah,
How'd we get
I
here?
think we're not the only ones doing this work. I think that there's been other providers out here doing the work, and they're looking in other areas. We did start at a different location in Lower Providence, as Dr. Darby has mentioned a couple years ago. We heard community concern, we listened to community concern, and we feel that being on Eagleville's campus has like-minded services on that campus, and it's a good fit. There's also a structure there right now that we could do modifications pretty quickly. As Mark opened up, there's a immediate need right now, so that is why we focused on that. There's also access, because public transportation is close, and Supervisor McFarland did point out that that might not be the only resource. We do have programming developed to be able to get people around, but we look at access in and access out. So I think that you're never going to have the perfect location, but I feel that it checked a lot of our boxes there.
Okay, and then my last question is, what will this look like? So we have a campus, right? We have Eagleville Hospital, and then we'll potentially have this. Do the residents and individuals here, do they all commingle? Is this like a hangout, or are they separate?
I appreciate
entities?
you bringing that up, and sorry we haven't mentioned kind of that relationship to Eagleville. We are a separate entity. Eagleville will be our landlord, and something that is on this development plan is making sure there is separation from the campus of their work that they are doing and our work that we are doing. So the only thing would be that we would section off a piece of their grounds, and we would be a separate entity providing these services.
Okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. Is Supervisor Knights available?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Darby. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. Well, thanks again for the presentation. My question relates to public safety. We know that most people needing services are law-abiding. But that said, does the proposed text amendment have any provisions to screen out individuals convicted of crimes?
It does, yes. but I will be clear, we do have to follow fair housing practices. So there are a couple things that we have to do as a provider organization to do that. But I do feel that we share that concern with the board, and we will work on that screening process with you.
Okay, excellent. And what is the typical expected length of stay for a typical person in need of this sort of support?
I hope that I'm looking at you, Supervisor Knights. I can't see you, but I'm trying to answer your questions. So,
Fine.
yeah, I see this red light up here. So,
You're looking right at me. You pointed right at me.
perfect. So, our target goal is 60 to 90 days. We have some people that figured out, I think one of Christina's stories was somebody just needed support for a month and were able to get on their feet pretty quickly. Like I said, at that 90-day period, it isn't that you're out, you've used your time. We really wrap intensive services around individuals to find the resources that they need to move forward. But we always have to have target dates. It's not a long-term stay. And when that 90 days is approaching, there's more conversations happening. What are you doing to move forward? What resources do we need? Things like that, so people don't stay stagnant.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
May I ask one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just one more. You don't charge these residents anything for this service, and you're a nonprofit, so generally speaking, where is your funding sourced?
Yeah, so our funding source comes from a variety of different sources to make this work. So the bulk of it is government funding, both state and local county funding sources. We do have some individual donors that do support our operations, but it's grant funded.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought of one more question. Will there be 24-hour security as well, or are we using Eagleville security, or are we relying on our police forces, or?
So there's 24-hour staffing, and we have the on-call line. So we would have our in-house stuff, and then Eagleville security would be part of that. It would be part of our lease agreement. So yes, there would be that. So we wouldn't have what I would consider security. We would have staffing on site. Our staffing pattern would look probably 2 to 3 people on our overnight plus our on-call line.
Okay, I guess the idea is you're screening them to a level where you don't expect too many security issues, or we don't know?
Yes, I would hope that there wouldn't be security issues, that we would be calling the police all the time. Historically, I feel like we're able to resolve a lot of the situations on site without the need of security.
And if it's men and women, how are they separated out, or are we all?
We definitely have
together?
that trauma-informed care lens in our focus of separating the two populations. So it usually looks like one wing will be the female wing with their access to their bathroom, and the other wing being the male. It makes it a little easier. We talked about the difference between the shelter and a short-term housing facility. It makes it easier with the individual rooms to do that.
And is there a curfew for these residents? Or are they expected back at a certain time? And
Yes, we would have curfew, and also the ability to adjust that as needed. The exception to curfew would be if someone had employment that was overnight and, provided proof. Of course, we would not stop someone from, going to their job and things like that because of employment or because of curfew. But so typically we would expect to have curfew be 10 p.m. On weekdays and midnight on weekends. But if we did find issues with that, we could adjust it. I know a question that has come up in the past, though, is, well, if someone misses curfew, like, are they just stuck outside in Lower Providence? No, absolutely not. We would still allow someone in, but we would work with them to address these issues as part of the program and our expectations for working with us and being there.
Everyone's good? Supervisor Knights, any other questions, comments?
No, Dr. Darby, I'm good. Thank you.
Great. All right. So now we're going to hear from the community, and just want to say that we're all in this together, township residents. So as you approach the mic here, please be kind and respectful of all of us, and state your name and the township. Thank you.
Would it be helpful if RHD had their own mic so they didn't have to?
You give them a mic, just so they don't have to. Could you give?
Yeah, just like we always do. So you can form a line if there's multiple people that are going to speak tonight. Please do that, and we'll just go down the line. We're here to hear your thoughts and comments and questions. So RHD is here to answer all those for you as well. Okay. Feel free. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jude Schweigel. I live at 207 Clearfield Avenue in Trooper. I grew up here. I graduated from Methacton High School. I'm here to express my full support for the RHD Supportive Short-Term Housing Program in Lower Providence Township. RHD is an experienced housing provider. It is a program I know well because I've been employed with RHD under the direction of Christina Jordan for the last 3 years. I am honored to be a part of our tremendous team and to have helped Christina and her team to provide excellent services to people without housing. I believe communities are strong when all their members are getting their basic needs met. I want to be part of a community that has safety nets for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Esky, 540 Highgate Road. Had a very nice presentation made, but with their presentation, gave a lot of random questions. So I think my first question is, you're a 501?
If you don't mind me standing up.
Nope.
We are 501c3, yes.
So you pay no taxes,
Correct.
but you're funded, as Mr. McFarland said, by the residents, by taxes paid by the residents, through the county, through the township, through the state.
Through a variety of different funding streams, yes, ma'am.
So we're paying for you. So are your people that come, are you calling them patients, clients, tenants? What are you calling them?
We would call them residents, ma'am.
Residents, okay. Your brochure states that you are a homeless shelter program. And you're saying here that you are not a homeless shelter program.
I think that we're looking at providing homeless services in a different way.
So you really are, but you're sugarcoating it.
I don't agree with that statement. I think that I look at it as a different service.
Right, some of my questions are random, but then I'll go back to them. But your rooms, are they single rooms, double rooms?
No more than 2 people in a room.
And do they
Can you
have a
show the picture again?
Do you have a private bathroom? Do they have private bathrooms?
The
Or communal?
design's not fully done yet, so they could be either. We have to figure out space.
So how are you different than the county? Because the county offers all the same services as you.
We're a provider of service for the county, so I'm not familiar with any services that the county actually provides in this space. We contract with the county to provide the services.
So you work under the county?
They're our funder.
The county is your funder?
Correct, ma'am.
Oh, again, it comes back to us. So initially you said 18 years and older men. But now you just said the women have their own rooms.
I don't recall saying men, and I apologize to everybody if I said 18 plus men. It is
So I didn't
co-ed.
say 18 plus men, 18 years older,
Eight-
only men.
Yes, ma'am. We're saying the same thing. I apologize again. So 18 years and older, both male and female would be the residents that would be eligible for this facility.
So is this building 1 level or 2 levels?
The current building is 1 level.
So how will you separate the men and the women?
As I explained to, I think one of the Supervisor Charles had the question. We look at it from a trauma-informed lens approach, and they would be separated by wings.
What if the women come with children?
No children are allowed in this facility.
So you're exclusionary.
There's other facilities within the county that would support
Well,
children.
I know that, but I'm talking about what you propose.
Our contract is to serve individuals who are adults, single adults.
And they have to meet qualifications that your company sets? Who sets these qualifications?
Both of us, our contract sets expectations, and then we have expectations on top of that, and that's some of the stuff that we explained in our presentation.
Right, so you're exclusionary. So if a person doesn't meet all your criteria, they can't come into your program.
Correct, there is criteria to get into our program. I wouldn't define it as exclusionary.
Where else do you have buildings of this type?
Of this type, like I explained, this
Well,
is...
I don't mean what's on the Iggleville compound. I mean facilities that are treating people, patients, residents.
We provide a variety of different services. Like I said, this is a new service that we're looking at, and we explained our vision here tonight from a new service delivery, but we have over 162 programs across the country, our biggest footprint locally here. Under my oversight, I have, I think, 12 programs here in Montgomery County.
So it's a pilot program.
Yes, in a sense, it's a new vision of how we're going to provide this service. We have experience providing services to people without housing.
Excuse me for 1 second. Thank you, Ms. Zetsky. I just want to, just for time's sake, I appreciate all the questions and everything. Feel free to ask another one, and then there's people in the wings that want to talk as well.
I'm sure there is, and I'm going to ask the people in the audience if there's anyone that would like to defer their time to me so that I can continue. Okay.
Okay. Huh? What's that? But wait, but I don't. Excuse me.
I'm sure.
With all due respect, there's other people that would like to speak as well. So thank y'all for doing that. But please feel free to ask one more question, and then.
You're giving me the gong. You're putting me off.
I did not say that, ma'am.
You said ask one more question.
Yeah, I didn't say you could not ask your question. I'm not going to argue. So I'm just saying, I'm just out of respect.
I have about 13 other questions. Are you going to let me ask them?
This is.
I also want to state that we do want to engage with the community, and I will pass my contact information on to EJ, and anybody can reach out to me and ask questions, and we can meet, and I'm happy to explain.
Can we make a line of how many people want to
here-
speak, please? Thank
The
you.
people are here tonight, and that was going to be my ending comment, that the township has been neglectful. You have had a lease agreement since May of '23, and yesterday and today is the first that most of these people heard anything, and they all scrambled out here tonight, and now you're going to deny us an opportunity to speak?
Ma'am, I am not denying you any, I'm not saying that you cannot speak. I am just saying allow others to speak as well. That's all I'm saying.
Well, then I'll be back.
Perfect.
Do you mind me standing here? I think it's, if you have
That's
questions for
fine.
me. Thank you.
I appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and I understand the value. I guess I have to talk in the mic. I understand the value of what you're doing. I've had family who could benefit from your services, so I do thank you.
Can you
piggyback on the
say your name again? I'm
questions.
sorry, we didn't hear it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My name is Sherry Beal.
Okay.
I live 3252 West Mount Kirk.
Thank you.
Right down the street. So this facility would be within a mile of my home. And my initial concerns when I got the letter today, and as the woman standing before me did say accurately, this is the first I've heard of it in the mail, so I scurried out here with my husband. And my first reaction was, we already have a prison, we already have a drug rehab, and now, we're going to have temporary housing. And I want to share the love. Listening to what you said, it's a service we need, and if every case were as you describe, I welcome a facility such as this. I do piggyback on the questions that Mr. McFarland had, though, around the success rates. And I think real statistics would be helpful. So, and, that understanding that success looks differently from every person. But, do people have to come back is one way to know if it didn't work. And something concrete would help us understand how it's working. Another question that I don't know her name, I'm sorry, but the woman before was, how many other Jenny's places are there? This is a new vision. It sounds a little bit like a project home. I don't think it's all new. So I would love to know, if you don't have it now, if you could come back to us with that info. How many other programs like yours are there? How long have they been in existence? And what is the success rate? And then I would also ask, for the communities where these facilities have come in, do those communities have statistics on crime rates going up? Or behavioral issues increasing in those communities? And then, how you deal with them, I understand, call us, we'll work with the person. That's wonderful in theory, but that's not a concrete answer. So if we're going to invite that into our community, or if it's coming to our community, whether we want it or not, a real answer would be something we would want. You mentioned screening and background checks. I'd be interested in knowing what disqualifies a person. So, I know, criminal activity, criminal background will not disqualify them. That's fair housing law. What does disqualify a person? Do you have that answer?
Yeah, that is written up in the ordinance that is being presented. So I do think everybody will see that ordinance. I don't want to read it word for word in my head because I don't have it right now, but that is written down. So
it's going to be a county ordinance?
Yeah, so excuse me 1 second. If you can back up a little bit and let the community know where Jenny's Place came from. So it's not just popping up here. They were placed elsewhere. So if you can kind of give a history about that, just real quick.
Yeah, like how we kind of got here.
Correct.
So we did provide what we would define as homeless shelter services within Montgomery County. That facility has since closed, and we had to pivot to doing new homeless service work, and that was on the grounds of the Norristown State Hospital. So we had to pivot to doing work in a different way. So this is where we designed this facility, and we have been working to relocate this service in a different way since we closed. So we do have experience providing that services. We think that these services are more intensive and more tailored to serve the population in a better way.
Among the screening techniques that you'll apply, will that include like drug testing for illegal substances?
We wouldn't drug test people, but we do assessments on people. So we would know if people were using drugs and alcohol, and we would address that. I also didn't mention that there is no drugs and alcohol allowed on our facility, and anybody who's using drugs and alcohol, there would be an assessment piece, and we would connect those individuals with the right resources.
And I promise I don't have many more questions.
Okay.
A couple of people have asked about the 60 to 90-day stay.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's you'll work with the person until. Is there a maximum stay that you have seen so far?
I'm sure if we look back on it, there's a maximum say. I mean, there has to be.
Well, that would be interesting for us to know, because it's like, well, somebody really could be here for 3 years, or no, it's really
3
been
years.
only a year.
3 years is an extreme. I would say it would float more, and this is anecdotally. Don't quote me, but more a year, a little over a year, and those are the complex situations. We
Okay.
deal with a lot of nursing homes and getting people into nursing homes, and when stuff becomes available there. So I would say 3 years is on the real extreme.
Okay. And what does outreach look like? I mean, if it's not Code Blue, you're not driving around the streets looking for people who are homeless. What does outreach look like?
That's done by a different service provider within the county, but they are engaging the people who are in need of immediate housing.
So we don't know what the outreach actually looks like.
It looks differently. So usually calls come in for people who need help with services. That outreach team would physically go out and see somebody wherever they're located at, get to know that person, explain our program if they're eligible for our program, and explain other programs. So not everybody comes to us. I want to make sure that people understand that as well, and then that is when the referral happens. So I do know we don't provide the outreach services. I know what outreach looks like, though.
Okay. And then I guess my last is just a concern that maybe the next time you come together, there can be a better answer to the safety aspect. The I hope it would be okay doesn't work for me.
Can you give me more specifics?
Where you don't really need to have security. The Eagleville Hospital would be the security with the separation of the male and female. One of my questions was the staffing ratio, and I think I heard there'd be 3 people at night. And I hope that everyone would be on their best behavior because we're going through a thorough screening process, is what I thought I heard, and that's not really an answer.
I understand that, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we do have people taking notes, and I heard a lot of takeaways that you wanted, so we will work to get that, and I will work with EJ on how we get that out to the community. You're welcome. Thank you.
And I just wanted to interject just quickly, just to notify everyone that tonight we're not voting on anything in particular to allow RHD to come here. We are just going to be talking about advertising the text amendment, and that will be advertised and also shared with the community as well. Because we have certain conditions, and we're hearing from the community now that we could change a few things. So I just wanted just to say that as well. Feel free. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca Catagnis, Sunnyside Avenue. Most of my questions are more for considerations for the community and the public, and not anything that necessarily. But feel free to interject if
I just want to.
Okay,
if you have something specific, I can stand back.
So in marketing, you have a strategy of either you're trying to sell the sizzle or trying to sell the steak, and this presentation to me was a lot more about the sizzle than about the steak and about the data of how this is going to impact our community. I was seeing online that a lot of residents in the immediate area are already stating that live near the rehab center. They're alleging that their homes, sheds, and cars are already being burglarized, and I was just wondering if the board can confirm or deny this allegation, and that if it is true, that information be presented to the public before any voting takes place.
Real quick, are you saying that the people are coming from the Eagleville Hospital?
That from the like the drug rehab that are getting out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know about this issue until I received a text message from somebody who lives in the apartments, and
they saw someone come from the drug rehab.
That they have problems in their apartment complex when people are leaving the allegedly. I haven't seen any data. Like this is the first I've heard about it. I haven't had a chance to reach out to the police department. So I'm saying for the board to consider that. Is there an increase of burglaries in that vicinity where the rehab center is compared to other parts of the township?
Chief, can we defer this to you?
You don't have to answer questions or respond.
I am unaware of any data that would support that allegation.
Okay. Does the police department track like where there's more burglaries in the township as opposed to others? Is there like a map for that we could look at? Or
yeah, we don't have. I think last year we had 17 burglaries, so it's not like we have a large amount of burglaries, where you know, where we'd be on, where it targets a specific area. It's pretty scattered around the township.
And is burglary, is that defined as like car break-ins too? I don't know what the
No.
law defines as,
No,
as kinds of
for-
like petty, I don't know what, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if the question is
Those would be
specific enough.
theft from motor vehicles.
Yeah.
And they happen throughout the township as well. So I would have to pull the data to see if there has been an influx.
I don't know, like I wasn't expecting an answer tonight because I know it takes time to like gather
Sure.
that kind of information, so.
Sure. Typically, stuff like that would pop out to us, and that's not. I have not seen an influx of crimes related to Eagleville Hospital in the surrounding.
In like the
community.
apartment complexes.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say that there's been an uptick in it or anything like that.
Okay. Okay, well,
Thank you, Chief.
yeah, but like a definitive answer, I don't know, like
Okay.
how to define the crime specifically to see if there's like petty incidents or whatnot. And any incident is petty if it's not happening to you. So in Norristown, as well as in places all over the country, there are homeless encampments. And I wanted to know, how does the board plan on addressing the possibility of homeless encampments if these transitional residents are removed from the program or are not compliant with the program? What responsibilities will the township have for providing EMS services when residents lapse? How much will our taxes go up to increase police and EMS services? We're already going to have a substantial tax increase. If the township changes the zoning for this project, how does that impact other services like this from being duplicated in other areas of the township? Also, if the zoning is changed, what changes may they make as far as who they admit and what services they provide without coming to the board for permission? How will having this in the township impact the culture of our community? We are already getting smoke and vape shops, and will pawn shops be next? The county received $161.4 million in COVID funds, plus an additional $5 million for housing services. Will any of that money be coming to Lower Providence? The county has mismanaged housing for these programs. How does the township plan to make sure this doesn't happen here? The board and the residents can read more about this issue in the Lansdale Reporter in the article, Nonprofit Seeks Extension of Lease at Norristown State Hospital, published April 20th, 2022. I believe the facility they had on the state grounds, they had 5 years to find a new place, and they never found a new lease within 5 years. So that sounds a lot like mismanagement to me. Does the township get a say in the criteria for the type of residents accepted into this program? And what changes will we be allowed to, what changes will they be able to make if the zoning's changed? And more importantly, probably most importantly, is this township the best location for the residents in transitional housing? Does our township have the types of social services such as this population needs? Do we have jobs for them? Do we have enough medical providers to serve their needs? Or will they have to wait outside in weather like this at bus stops with no coverings and spend hours on buses? Can we meet their public transportation needs? When they are ready to transition into permanent housing, where will they go? How will they get to those jobs they just got in order to maintain their permanent housing? Lower Providence can't meet those housing needs. The township has nowhere else to build without drastically changing current zoning laws. And the only thing I wanted to add is that residents should have more of a warning before the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anthony First, 51.
Excuse me one second. I just wanted to let the people on Zoom know that we haven't forgotten you, but you will be able to comment as well. Okay. Thank you.
51 Ivy Circle. Anthony First. So first off, I'd like to say you guys need to do a better job letting people know about this. The marketing sucked. My first question is, are there going to be any immigrants in your facility?
Sorry. No, sir, it's not an immigration facility.
Okay, that's my only question.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Laws. I'm here with my husband, George, who kindly dropped off our letter of support earlier today. We live at Concord Circle, which is just one of the next neighborhoods up between Mount Kirk and Church. We bought a house here in 1999, 25 years ago. Our children went to Methacton. Like many people in not just this community, but many communities, the value of our house is a big part of our retirement plan. So I know that part of what the Board of Supervisors and the zoning officers look at is the impact on our community from an economic standpoint. I know when we were looking to move to Montgomery County, my husband worked at a large pharmaceutical company not near here, so we were looking at various neighborhoods. We were concerned that this neighborhood does include the county correctional facility. It does include Eagleville Hospital. And I have to say that in 25 years, I'm not aware of any negative impact on us from those two facilities. I would characterize them as good neighbors. When you drive by their properties, they're well maintained. I'm familiar with some of the people who work in those facilities, who give back to the community, who come out and work with citizens on important issues to our community. They make their facilities available for community meetings. And I know RHD. RHD, I think, would fit into that same profile of being a very good neighbor to us. We have a family member who used one of their programs in Lower Marion that included housing in a really nice neighborhood in between Rosemont and Bryn Mawr. And a very different program, but it was very successful for her. And I've seen many people, I've worked with people who have faced homelessness and are now working, contributing members of society, and some of them are people who have been helped by RHD. So I know, I have great confidence in their ability to have an effective program. I have great confidence in their ability to be a good neighbor. I think this program would be an asset to us. And as far as the services that we're talking about, we need them. I think so many of our residents, our neighbors, are just one disaster away from being homeless. And so I think it's important that there are services in Montgomery County. And I think it's probably not visible to people, but there are homeless people in Lower Providence Township. We're fortunate to live in a really nice community. You know, many of us have very nice lives here, but it doesn't apply to all of us. So yes, there are people, there are neighbors and friends in this community who would use this. Thank you.
And people that are looking for data on homelessness in Lower Providence and what our social service liaison has involvement with, from June 1 of 2023 to December 31st of 2023, 12.9% involvement for homeless people in for calls for social service in our community. So like Ms. Law said, we do have homeless individuals here as well.
My name's Diane Helm. I've been a resident in Audubon for over 35 years. I realize that we can't leave everybody who's homeless or unhoused in Norristown or Pottstown. And as the West Norriton supervisor said last week at a meeting, if every community did something like this, we wouldn't have to worry about what Norristown and Pottstown look like. So I will commend this township for being forward-thinking and being progressive to try to help this. Also, from a personal standpoint, I work at Laurel House, and we've had people say the exact same things. It took us over 5 years to find a new safe haven center. People called it a shelter. It's not just a shelter. These are comprehensive programs that help everybody who walks in the door, help them achieve their goals and become an even better citizen. So I really hope that this eventually will go forward. Thank you.
Ted Mingle, Senior Minister, Lower Providence Presbyterian Church. I'm going to read to you a letter that our leadership board has endorsed in favor of RHD relocation. And so now I'll read that letter to you all. Dear Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors, My name is the Reverend Ted Mingle, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the pastors in leadership board of the 750-member congregation of Lower Providence Presbyterian Church. We're reaching out to you in order to express our full support for the relocation of the Resources for Human Development, RHD, supportive short-term housing program into Lower Providence Township. As a church located in the heart of Lower Providence Township, we see homelessness increase in our area due to the pandemic, the rising cost of housing, expensive health care, and the devastation of Hurricane Ida. We believe there's a great need for the services of RHD in our community. RHD is a reputable nonprofit organization with a long history of operating successfully within Montgomery County. They're the only year-round short-term housing resource in Montgomery County for single adults. Without their services, more Montgomery County residents would be sleeping on the streets. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ taught us to love and care for our neighbor, body, mind, and spirit. We support how RHD values the dignity of each individual they encounter as they help them transition out of homelessness permanently. This is achieved through not only transitional housing, but services such as financial literacy education, counseling, life coach skill teaching, job support, behavioral health services, and recovery support. Their presence is clearly vital to helping the people of our community who are struggling get off the streets and achieve a better quality of life. Jesus himself fed the hungry, healed the sick, and offered new life to all he encountered. We support RHD because they are living out the ways of Jesus as they care for and give an opportunity for new life to our homeless community. Sincerely, Reverend Ted Mingle, Reverend Kara Kavikia, and the Leadership Board of Lower Providence Presbyterian Church. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Guinan, and I live over on Bayless Place, right across the street from where this would be located. I think a lot of people's concern comes down. I believe a lot of people's concern comes down to safety and who are the people coming into the neighborhood. One question, how many residents do you expect to have at one time?
Sorry. Great question. I don't think that we mentioned that. So no more than 60 individuals in this facility.
60 individuals with 2 people on staff at nighttime.
2 to 3 people on staff at nighttime, yes. But also no comprehensive services throughout the day with the curfew as well.
So as far as the people coming in, fair housing doesn't allow you to discriminate based on criminal history, drug and alcohol abuse, things like that. What does that look like for, I think that, you know, the 2 closest things to that facility is a neighborhood with a ton of children and a bar. So a lot of people in a small facility and there's nothing to do in that area. What is that? What happens is you know, my concern.
Yeah, I'll take the fair housing thing first. There just needs to be processes in place around fair housing. So that doesn't mean like anybody can just come into the facility. We can have a screening process, which is outlined, I believe, in the ordinance. So when you read the ordinance, you'll see what that looks like. And then your second question was about like what people will be doing in an area that doesn't have a lot to do.
I mean, I guess, you know, there's already a lot of people in that area with the apartment complex, the townhomes, the duplexes.
Mm-hmm.
Now this. A lot of people in a small area is just, I mean, that's when bad things happen. That's a breeding ground for negative activity a lot of times. So what is there, you know, you said there's not going to be security, there's not going to be that. How does that impact the police department, the emergency services, all that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a full answer of how that impact, but I think I'm going to go back to something that Christina talked about. Like the people who are coming into our facility are engaging in a program of services, which keeps them busy, monitors them, engages in services. If people aren't engaging in services, then that's not the right facility for them, and we would help to move them to a right facility or move them out of the program. So I would hope that the individuals in our program would engage in our services, and it wouldn't be everybody out in the community. They would be inside working with our team, and if they weren't, we would address that.
What does it look like? Is there mental health and substance abuse programs on site?
This isn't a mental health or substance abuse program. I believe, I mean, Eagleville is a substance use, so I couldn't answer exactly all those because we're separate from Eagleville. But no, not in our facility, if that's what your question is.
All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Maloney, Grange Avenue. What happened to the other? What happened to the other place? Why'd that get shut down? Overall Trooper Road.
Trooper,
the Harley dealer.
the Harley
what
shop.
happened with that deal?
So when we went there, a lot of people talked about traffic and not safe area for people to be in. So we took feedback from the community and looked for a better place.
Okay, so my question to you is, so now you're here, so, and the people who live around here, first of all, I think it's a great idea. Everybody needs help. Would you say homelessness is up 12% or something like that? And you said, I was reading your brochure, it says you're holistic, right? Holistic means get to the root, get to the cause, right? All right, keep voting like this, and that's why it's going up. Elections have consequences. So we live around here now. So the people who live there didn't want it, and they pushed back. You're like, okay, so now you come here. So wouldn't the right thing to do would be, North Penn just had a vote because they wanted to up another $100 million for their school. How about we let the community decide on this one? Because more government never works out the way that it's supposed to work out, right? There's a lot of people, we do have an awesome township, awesome cops. Don't really know the board too much. Peter McFarland's cool though.
He looks cool up there.
Maybe some people here don't want it.
I understand.
You know what I mean? And there's the township, we have people in this township who volunteer, put big fundraisers together for kids with cancer. Why do we have to do that? Because the government cares, right? We don't have that money. That's what this township's about. Ask them. Because nobody wants to see anybody homeless.
Great.
Right? But now you're getting funded from the government. Teen Challenge, you ever heard of Teen Challenge?
I have not.
It's a
No.
Christian program, same thing, but you stayed a year up in Raresburg. The government got in, and it's not the same anymore. So,
Thank you.
okay.
First,
Yeah.
let me
People on Zoom,
preface
on
my
Zoom.
comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Zesky. We were going to go to the Zoom first, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
So everyone can speak first.
Yeah.
Do I have a choice?
You do?
I do.
Okay.
So anybody who's on Zoom who would like to comment, you can raise your hand and you will be unmuted, and we will let you know when you can speak. People on Zoom, and no one has their hand raised, so.
Got it.
First, let me preface my other remarks. I know there's a given number of people and a percentage of people that desperately need our help in whatever category we talk about. So I certainly am not talking about people that need help that I think we should not be helping. I'm talking mostly about how the lack of communication from the township has been on this issue and how I think this is the wrong spot for this thing. So now I'll try to remember where I was with bringing these questions, and I guess if it's your choice. Where will these people be coming from?
They have to be Montgomery County residents. So anywhere in Montgomery County.
Even though you're based in another area, okay?
Correct, but we also talked about partnering with Lower Providence to make sure that your residents had some kind of priority.
So we did agree that it is a pilot program.
Yes, it's a new way to look at service
So
delivery.
if it fails, what will you do with these people?
I don't project it. I don't want it to fail, first of all.
Of course, nobody
And
wants things to fail, but you need a back door when you do something
Correct.
like this.
We would make sure that everybody was taken care of, and we wouldn't just close the doors, similar to how we have closed other programs, including our former homeless services. No one was put back out on the streets.
So your lease agreement is a temporary agreement to see if this thing is going to fly. So let's assume it does, and we're all happy, and you need to do another facility. So you're going to build another building on the property with the Eagleville complex?
We have no vision, and we made sure that everybody understands that we will serve no more than 60 people on the grounds of Eagleville Hospital.
Kind of not what your lease says. And then I wondered for the board, if that would happen, do we get another building on the same property, or does it go through subdivision? So will some of the Eagleville drug and rehab people, if they age out or venture out or whatever from there, do they come to you?
No, ma'am, it's not a pipeline from Eagleville to our facility. I spoke about how we get our referrals, and that wouldn't be directly from Eagleville.
So our referrals come from the county, basically.
They come from, yes, the county system and a provider of county services.
So these people that come, they're doing real well, they want to move out. How do you help them find housing?
We have resources within the county. It's a comprehensive resources.
But resources is a wide statement. What resources?
Sure, there's different housing subsidies. I'm going to let Christina talk to this. She's more connected.
So we're actually really great at housing people and finding housing. We have case managers who work with folks whose job it is to help them find housing. There are also several different types of programs. So as I mentioned, we have a lot of seniors and a lot of seniors who are eligible for senior housing. So we're making sure that people are applying for eligible senior housing programs. And there are a variety of programs and subsidies and things through the county that provide some financial support in order to help people get back on their feet. And that looks different for different people, and that financial support can be for different varying amounts of times and things like that. But for the most part, we are, finding affordable market rate apartments, just like and any of us would live in, a landlord who's willing to rent to this person. It's a normal rental application, just like all of us would do. And, we're looking to house people in Montgomery County too. So we may find that, someone will be from Lower Providence and they would like to remain in Lower Providence, and we will focus their housing search in Lower Providence. Someone might be from a different area, and we might be helping them get back to that area.
So are we talking about Section 8?
Not necessarily. There are a variety of different programs. And Section 8 is actually quite rare, a resource that we would use.
So these units, do these people have their own kitchens?
In our facility?
Yes.
Not necessarily. We would provide meals for folks, and they wouldn't have their own kitchen here.
Now, you talked about your staff, and I know you said you have 20 people, but 5 of those 20 people are administrative. So that doesn't leave you that many people for 24/7 to have some supervision in this building at all times.
Well, so I think that probably depends on what you consider administrative, but administrative staff are also on, like, I am the director, and I would be on site. Our managers would be on site. Our managers would be meeting with individuals for supervision. Our managers would be meeting with residents as needed.
So
and
you have a dual job? You're a counselor and an administrator? Is that what you're saying? That your other people are counselors and administrators?
So everyone would be assigned their primary case manager, but that doesn't mean that's the only person that you can speak with. So you would have your primary case manager, and the case manager's function would be around finding you housing, but that doesn't mean, folks aren't allowed to speak to me. You know, I would be on site, I would be talking to people as well. I would know them, I would know their names. It's a very community atmosphere.
Since you don't really have staffing for difficulties, and you would rely mainly either on Eagleville's staff, or you would rely on our police department and fire department. Is
So-
that kind of what you said?
No, as I said in the presentation, our staff are highly trained. So just because they're not security staff does not mean that they don't know how to handle issues, crises, emergencies, and things like that. You know, it is the rare issue that there would need to be involvement from outside staff. I would not anticipating that happening very often at all. You know, staff are trained to handle issues. Just because they're not trained as a security officer doesn't mean that they're not able to handle most of those and all of those situations.
Well, I think there was an example of someone going down to the gas station and having a dispute. Who would you run down there and take care of that, or would our police department have to?
I don't know where that example came from, ma'am, but yes, we would intervene in any way that we could. We're not here to be a burden on the police department. We're here to partner with the community, and we would address that if that did happen. And like I said, to the board's question, that we would put programming in place to monitor that, to make sure that we're staying on top of that, because we don't support that either.
Dr. Goggins, can I address the board for a moment? This is a meeting, a public meeting, not a public hearing. This is beginning to sound like cross-examination. This has to do with legislation, and as the chair has said, there is a motion for consideration whether to have a public hearing on a legislative ordinance. Court cases say that at legislative hearings and meetings, there is no right to cross-examine. This is essentially cross-examination. It is not respectful. It is not polite. It is not fair to the applicant. There will be a public hearing if the board votes. There will be an opportunity for public comment, but I think this has gone too far, and it's not fair to the applicant. They provided this board with sufficient information to at least have this in a position where the board can decide whether there should be a public hearing on the matter. But I would ask the board to put a stop to essentially what is no longer public comment. It's just somebody on a personal agenda who's decided to consume most of the evening. And I'm going to direct my clients not to respond to any further questions by this witness. Please have a seat.
I kind of resent your remarks.
I'm happy that you do.
Well, thank you for that.
That's enough. So,
The residents of the township have a right to know what they're getting into. And the only way they know that is by
Absolutely.
asking questions. And because they don't like the tenor of my questions, because they're not all pearly and cute, I can't help that.
Okay.
I've lived in this township over 50 years and have spent a lot of time and energy working for the residents. You want to bang your gavel? Go ahead.
it was between you and Mr. Jonas. And we're going to stop right now. Thank
I'm
you.
done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm done.
So I just want to address the communication issue that someone spoke about. So we did communicate with the community by sending out letters to residents in the area. Our agenda was placed on for public viewing starting on Tuesday, since there was a holiday on Monday. We are not hiding anything from the community. This is a presentation just to let you know what potentially is coming to the township. We are not making any votes on anything and not letting you know what's happening. So this was communicated to the residents, and and we will continue to communicate as we go through this process. So we have not voted on anything. We are not allowing anything, and we are here to listen to the community.
Excuse me. 10 days notice would be very much accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I just want to mention one more thing, that there is a dedicated page on the township website that was live as of either Thursday or Friday of last week that contains FAQs that will be continually added to and revised, and there's also additional information on RHD and this proposed project. So that page is right on the homepage of the township website, lowerprovidence.org. There's literally a button that says RHD proposal, and it's had information up there since last week, and we will be continuing to add information. And as we continue to get comments, we will beef up the FAQ document that is on there with the frequently asked questions, and that also contains information on the process and what the next steps are, because there have been a lot of questions about that as well.
Hey, EJ, if a member of the community wants to provide comment, is there a place for them to email it? Is there a link or anything like that? What do you suggest?
Yeah, there's a number of different ways they can do that. There are there's kind of a comment section on the township website where comments can be submitted. Alternatively, they can email it to just me or Paul. Our email addresses are available on the website. We also have business cards available in the lobby with our email addresses on it. There's also a general township email, admin@lowerprovidence.org, and that makes its way to Paul and I. And anything that we get regarding this will make its way to the Board of Supervisors as well.
And I believe a lot of the things that were brought up, like the criteria, potential cost sharing and things like that, are going to be advertised to the public. Do you know when and some of those things are not even finalized yet. Do you know approximately when the public will start to see that and they can start commenting on the actual text?
So I don't have a firm date, but what I can say as far as potential next steps, if the board does authorize the advertisement of the public hearing this evening, the next step, as Solicitor Gallagher already mentioned, would be for this to go to the Township's Planning Commission, which meets at the end of February. So I would anticipate that probably about a week prior to that Planning Commission meeting, if not sooner, the draft of the text amendment would be available on the Township website.
That's correct.
Thank you.
After it goes to the Planning Commission, again, it will be advertised in the newspaper. The ordinance will be available on the Township's website, and there will be another public hearing in this room. So there will, again, tonight, the only thing that's being considered tonight is whether or not to authorize advertising of the ordinance and start that process.
You need to come up to the microphone.
You have to.
I'm sorry, I'm John. I live on Mount Kirk. I'm Sherry's husband. Was this process already started when it was proposed to go to the Harley dealer? Did you do the same thing? And why not?
It was a slightly different process when that was the site that was in question, and again, the applicant selected a different property to pursue. So this is just the beginning of this process.
It never got to this point.
Never got this far.
That's where I'm going with
Right.
that. All right. Because I worked at the Harley dealer, and I also go to St. Teresa's. So I'm familiar when that was going on because it was talked about. And I was just wondering why you guys came here. That's all.
Yeah, it never got here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to move on